My name is Jesse. My name is Jesse Hagopian. I'm an editor at Rethinking Schools and an organizer with the Zen Education Project. And I'm joined by Crystal Butler and Shannon Morrison, who will be interpreting this evening. Thanks so much for being with us. This is going to be a great conversation. I am excited to be in dialogue with the great Cierra Kaler-Jones. But before that, we'd love to see who's in the room with us. So if you haven't done so, please introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're coming from and maybe your relationship to education. Would be great to find out all the places you're coming from. Thank you for dropping all these introductions in the chat. We got Kansas in the house, Wisconsin, Maryland. This is great. We really appreciate you all being here. Eugene, Oregon. People from all across the country want to transform the education system. That's wonderful. Well, tonight's event is an exciting one. For the first time in Rethinking Schools' 37-year history, we've welcomed our first ever executive director, and I'm so glad that it's Cierra. We really chose right with this one, y'all, and I'm excited for you all to hear her vision. We are grateful that you all have joined us this evening, and I'm thrilled to be in conversation with my comrade and friend, Cierra Kaler-Jones. We'll talk about her background and her dreams and visions for Rethinking Schools and the movement for education justice. And she'll also even be leading us through a short writing exercise. She wants this to be an interactive space, as all good radical social justice educators believe in. So we're going to just jump right into this dialogue here and begin the conversation. But welcome, Cierra. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so grateful that you all have joined us tonight. I do want this to be interactive, so fill up the chat. Let's be in conversation. Let's be in community. Let's be in dialogue.
Oh, wow. There's someone here that gave their doctoral students your research. I love that.
Yay, love to hear that. Thank you.
Cierra's work is reaching people everywhere. So let's jump into this conversation, Cierra. It's great to do this. Usually you and I are interviewing somebody else.
Yes.
with our monthly Zen Education Project Teach the Black Freedom Struggle classes, right?
Yes.
So it's great to turn the lens and have it on you to find out more about your vision. And I'll start just by asking you what the first 5 months have been like as the executive director for Rethinking Schools.
Yes. So these first 5 months, I started officially in January, and they've been wonderfully busy. During the first few months, I got to travel to Milwaukee and learn about the roots of Rethinking Schools. I met with the founding editors, spent time with the business staff, and really just grounded myself in the rich history of the organization. After that, I traveled to Seattle, got to spend some time with you in person, Jesse, and Portland to spend some time with editors and writers. I got to speak at South by Southwest on a panel about organizing in the wake of the attacks on education. I tabled at the American Educational Research Association, also known as ARA conference, selling books and magazines, and talking to teacher educators and higher education faculty about how they're using materials in their classrooms. I got to be in conversation with incredible folks as part of a webinar that we co-hosted with the Anti-Racist Teaching and Learning Collective about where do we go from here. And I actually just got back from Iowa, where I was invited by the Waterloo School District to support teachers and students in their memoir writing unit. And I shared about Rethinking Schools' work.
Oh,
Gotten
cool.
to sit on a number of meetings and have been just soaking up as much information as I possibly can. Been working with the team to fundraise so we can have the resources and capacity to grow, expand, and continue to do this work during a time when education is under attack. And I've gotten to talk to supporters, writers, and members of the Rethinking Schools community. And it's been so touching to hear from the many folks who make up our community what Rethinking Schools means to them. And so I am so excited for all that we'll continue to build together.
Oh, you have been wonderfully busy.
Yeah,
Full plate there in the first 5 months. I was so glad you made it out to Seattle. It was special to get to show you my high school, my alma mater, where I've taught for a long time, Garfield. That was fun.
yes.
Right on. Well, how did you come to Rethinking Schools in the first place? What was your journey up to this point?
Yeah, so definitely has been a journey, and I would be remiss if I didn't start at my own roots and give a little context and some storytelling. So when I was in high school, there were statewide budget cuts. I grew up in Galloway, New Jersey, and there were statewide budget cuts that led my school district to put the arts programs on the Board of Education's list for elimination. And as I watched the board meetings and news coverage, I organized with my peers, teacher allies, and community members to write letters. We created a social media campaign and shared testimonies at school board meetings to put pressure on the board to reinstate the arts programs. And while we were successful in winning our campaign to save the arts programs, I started to have questions. I started to ask why the arts were the first to be cut. And so from there, my friends and I actually started offering free arts lessons to elementary school students in our community. So that was my first
Oh, how did you do that?
entryway into teaching, was just offering some free arts lessons, me growing up as a dancer, teaching dance to elementary school students at a local dance studio. And I realized the power of the both and strategy, both fighting for educational institutions to provide access to holistic education, and also forging our own community spaces that were fugitive. And so this experience led me to become a dance teacher, in which I strive to support young people in telling stories through movement. And so from there, as a dance teacher, students started to come to dance class sharing their frustrations about the corporate curriculum in school. And they started asking if we could learn people's history in dance class. They would come to class and they would say things like, "Miss Sierra, can we learn about Black history and dance, since we don't learn it as much as we would like to in school?" Or, "Can we talk about current events in dance? Because I know things are messed up and I want to figure out how to change it." And so together we delved into questions about what we would want to learn if we created our own dream curriculum. And so young people taught me what liberatory curricula and pedagogy could look like even before I had any language for it. And then fast forward a bit, when a professor in graduate school introduced the class to Rethinking Schools, I was so excited. I had found a community of other educators and activists that were also experimenting with curricula and pedagogy that centered students' experiences. And so from there, in 2019, I served as what was called the Education and New Fellow with Teaching for Change, our sister organization that we collaborate with to co-run the Zen Education Project, and then also Communities for Just Schools Fund. And in this role, I got to travel to teachers' classrooms to write about examples of social justice teaching in the DC metro area. But then when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, I used my understanding of digital platforms to support educators through emergency remote learning, and then also doing the tech and logistics for Zen Education Project's Teach the Black Freedom Struggle online classes. And now grateful to serve alongside you, Jesse, as one of the moderators for the series. And it was through that work that I learned how much I cherish opportunities to be in community with other educators. And after my fellowship, I started volunteering with Zen Education Project, and then was encouraged to share some of my writing with Rethinking Schools after being a longtime fan of the resources, and then worked with you, Jesse, to co-write the Teaching for Black Lives study guide. So I was really hooked from there. And so before moving into the executive director role, I worked for Communities for Just Schools Fund, which is a philanthropic intermediary that resources grassroots organizing and the education justice movement. And my title was Director of Storytelling. And this role explored the power of storytelling for movement building and what it means to build narrative power to create change. And for me, really, it was storytelling that led me to Rethinking Schools. I think of Rethinking Schools as a knowledge cultivator and sustainer, in that it creates space for our stories to be told in our own way. And it provides an opportunity for us to write the very history that the opposition is so desperately seeking to erase and distort. And so I'm honored to be able to bring my background with teaching, researching, fundraising, writing, and public speaking to serve an organization that's really just shaped so much of who I am and who I strive to be in the world.
Mm, that's beautiful. Thanks for filling in some of the story for me about how you got involved with Rethinking Schools and why this work matters to you. And maybe you could say more about about why this work is so important to you and what does it mean to do this work at a time when the truth is being outlawed, when education is under attack. They're giving educational gag orders to
Yeah.
try to stop teachers from teaching about structural racism or sexism or heterosexism.
Mhm.
What does it mean to do this work now?
Oof, this is such a good question. And I think about my own educational experiences growing up, and I think more particularly in tapping into the experiences of my family members and my ancestors. Many of them pushed out or denied access to education, punished for trying to pursue education, and also how transformative it was for me to engage in political education. I think a lot of what I learned from incredible teachers was just about power, right? Dismantling power, disrupting power, wielding power, and what that looked like, what that could do in order to create new futures. And so, in developing my own critical consciousness building, which is an ongoing journey for sure, I think what grounds me and sustains me in this work and why this work is so important is because the truth is what sets us free, right? So many of my family members, of course, has passed that down to me, the importance of education being such a critical and a key factor in us being able to learn our history. And one of the guiding principles in my life is the Ghanaian principle of Sankofa. It is not taboo what is at risk of being left behind, go back and get it, right? The idea that we have to know our history in order to know who we are in the present to be able to dream new futures. And everything that I do and everything that I strive to do in the world is really grounded in that Ghanaian principle.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. And on the rethinking school side, I think as someone who has directly experienced the editing process to publish in the magazine, I know the power of having thoughtful, affirming editors. I know the power of being able to see my own story in print, and showing young people their stories in print and supporting them in that. And as somebody who frequently shares Rethinking Schools articles and education project lessons with teachers through professional development, I've also seen firsthand how transformative it is for others to participate in and teach these interactive lessons that I believe move us inches closer to freer futures. And as you mentioned, Jesse, in 44 states and counting, there's legislation that bans critical conversation about racism and all forms of oppression in schools. There's 155 plus anti-LGBTQ plus bills. There's anti-organizing legislation, pushback on police-free schools, and so much more. But these attacks are spirit harming. They're really aimed at erasing our minds, our bodies, and our souls. But in order to counteract that, we need community, we need resources and support to sustain us in the long run. And the opposition doesn't want us to be hopeful. They don't want us to be imaginative. But I think that Rethinking Schools offers a place for us to share, to document our stories and provide possibilities. And I'll share one of my favorite quotes from a recent Rethinking Schools editorial on recommitting to the joyful classroom. And the editorial board wrote, quote, "Joy is not an escape from the hard realities of our world, but a dive into them." And this just reminds me that we need more of those sparks of possibility. And I'm honored to work for an organization that keeps hope and that keeps joy at the center, because that's what will sustain us and that's what will fuel us for the long term.
Mm, yes, no doubt. I'm so glad that you are living the principle of Sankofa and uplifting that. And it's powerful that you said that because, I was telling you before this event that I just had a chance to visit the plantation where my family had been enslaved in Mississippi. And we did a ceremony to honor our ancestors when we got to the land with my brother and my dad. And we buried this box that included some of our words. And the Sankofa symbol was one of the medallions that we put in that box to offer our ancestors and let them know we wouldn't forget about them, even if they pass laws
Yes.
that say we can't tell students about what happened to our family. We're going to do it anyway. And the vision that you have for the magazine is going to help us, I think, tell the story, continue to go back and get the stories that students need today. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That's so powerful, Jesse. And thank you for sharing that story with us.
Oh, right on. I just want people to get to know you better as well. Besides just your incredible vision, just more about who Cierra is. So tell us something about you that's unique that people might not know.
Yes. So you already know this about me, but I'll share this with the full group. But outside of my work at Rethinking Schools, I dance professionally with a DC-based dance company. And I performed in 4 shows this year. I love, love, love to dance. I also choreograph for performances and teach dance from kindergarten age up through adults. I have many, many fun stories of teaching dance with young people all the way up through adults. I've been dancing for 25 years, and it grounds me and it inspires me and it challenges me.
I just love the way that you bring dance into pedagogy and the struggle for social justice education. And I think you've expanded a lot of us in Rethinking Schools, expanded our idea of education and into movement and how that has to be part of it. So
Thank you.
that's special.
I appreciate that. We tell so many stories with our bodies and through movement. So I'm grateful to be able to lift that up in any space that I can.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right, let's have another get to know Cierra question. Favorite food?
Favorite food, birthday cake ice cream.
Oh,
I
yes.
love ice cream.
You and my kids would get along very well.
I feel like ice cream is a food group, willing to debate.
No doubt, no doubt. How about a go-to pump-up song?
Yes, so I played Just Fine by Mary J. Blige for you all earlier, but my other go-to pump-up song is my fellow Jersey girl, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. It always makes me want to dance.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay. How about something that you're reading, but that's not work related?
Oh, yes. I love fiction. Love, love, love fiction. So I recently read Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson, which was fantastic. Highly recommend. And then I just finished reading Black Girls Must Have It All by Jane Allen, which is actually the 3rd book in a series. I also recommend for folks that really enjoy fiction.
I haven't read those, but I need to, I guess. Yeah, I've been reading history and nonfiction so intensely to try to uncover the histories that have been denied us in schools
Yes.
that I neglected fiction for too long, and in the last couple of years, I've really been trying to read more. I realize that I can't really know the Black experience, the breadth of the Black experience, the diversity of the Black experience without reading some of the most incredible novelists as well.
Yes.
And every time I read a novel that I hadn't encountered before, I realized, okay, I got to keep going. There's so much more to understand. So I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yes, for sure.
Well, how about a final question as we wrap up on our time here? Um, Bigger picture, what do you want your legacy to be? And what are your dreams for Rethinking Schools?
Mm, yeah. So in terms of legacy, I want to be someone who is a supporter, a thought partner, a cheerleader, an Ella Baker style organizer who modeled with action, someone who is compassionate and fair, that puts people first, someone who is viewed as living up to the values of Rethinking Schools, of democracy, of learning together, of collaboration, as a dreamer, as someone who thoughtfully and critically challenges norms and the status quo, someone who is not afraid to experiment and fail and learn. And also something that's really important to me is being someone who brings joy into every space that I enter.
You
And
definitely do.
oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And some of what we are dreaming up here at Rethinking Schools for you all includes expanding our writing and curriculum workshops, so there are more opportunities for our community to come together so we can test out ideas, we can write and support one another. And this includes both virtual and in-person writing workshops. Also on my dream list is continuing to support young people in documenting their stories, lifting their artwork, and centering their experiences and their visions for education. We're also dreaming up webinars for each issue of the magazine to be in direct conversation with the writers and figure out how we can apply some of the lessons learned to our own work. We're dreaming up writing retreat spaces for educators, particularly educators of color, to come together, to rest, to write, and to be in community. Webinars for teacher educators about how to incorporate Rethinking Schools materials into teacher preparation programs and other higher education classes. And then, of course, more books on a variety of topics. And I think one of the things that I love about Rethinking Schools is the emphasis on political education, on studying and struggling, on providing resources to study groups to engage with the texts and the materials, but also to think about how to apply those. Like some of my favorite stories that come out of the Teaching for Black Lives study groups that are hosted by Zen Education Project are the ones where folks are like, yeah, we read that chapter and then we went right to the school board and showed them this policy and we organized and we made it happen. And I think that that's so powerful. And hearing from study groups that read the teacher unions and social justice books and then went and took over their union, like those stories, we want more of those at Rethinking Schools, and we want to be able to continue to provide more materials for people to really use as a way to organize and as a way to create change in their classrooms, but also in their school districts and their communities. And then lastly, just continuing to work in collaboration and partnership with other grassroots organizing groups that are also fighting for racial justice in schools. For example, there's so many great organizations working in the police-free schools movement and others. All of these issues are intertwined, and it's going to take all of us. I mean, periods of advancement towards racial and social justice have always been met with white supremacist backlash, and that's what we're experiencing right now. So any way that we can come together, that we can organize, and use political education and use writing as a political tool. One thing that the opposition is really good at is being well-funded and highly vocal. And so more opportunities to write, not just for the magazine and for the books, but also op-eds, and really ensuring that we get those out there, that we get our perspectives, our ideas, our experiences, and also those sparks of possibilities, those stories of freer futures that we're creating in classrooms and communities every day, having that be the story that's told, having that be the story that media is picking up, having that be the story that goes in textbooks. And that's my dream for what we can do at Rethinking Schools.
I love your dream. I love the ideas you have for continuing to develop our magazine and all the educators, community members that write for it. And we also got a piece of good news in the chat from Alicia Ford, who says, ice cream lovers, health benefits to eating ice cream, and a link to the Atlantic article. So
Love
clearly
to see it.
you're a visionary, Cierra. Yes. And people also want to know how they can remain connected with Rethinking Schools. So I know rethinkingschools.org is the website. Do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, there's many different ways. I think, for one, please feel free if you have teaching stories, if you have ideas, please do reach out to us, even if it's something that isn't a full draft. We love to workshop drafts with educators, activists, anyone that has a story that they really want to lift up. So please do reach out to us with your ideas. We really, really, really love to build on them and to support you in taking your visions and turning those into pieces. So I would definitely highly suggest that. And then also be on the lookout for more webinars. We're going to be enrolling a series of webinars in the coming months to bring folks together to talk on different topics so that we really can strategize, we can dream, we can organize, and we can engage, and we can build relationships with one another. So those are two tangible ways, but don't hesitate to reach out to us. And then at the end of the webinar, I'll also talk about some other upcoming opportunities. So Teaching for Black Lives has study group applications that are opening up. You get free copies of Teaching for Black Lives. You get free subscription to Rethinking Schools magazine, invitation only webinar. So there's so many ways to be involved with our work. And we really look forward to engaging as much as we can because it's so important.
Yeah, no doubt. And if people don't have a subscription yet to Rethinking Schools, that's something to do right away.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Cierra. Really appreciate the conversation. Great to get to know you better. And before Cierra transitions us into some writing together, I just wanted to say, if you haven't seen it yet, Cierra has been engaged in a month-long fundraiser. It's a campaign for Rethinking Schools to celebrate her birthday. So everybody should help me celebrate Cierra's birthday, which was on Monday. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Today is the last day to donate, and she needs your help to reach her goal. So we'll drop the donation link in the chat, and please donate if you can. Or please share it with your networks. Encourage other friends and educators to donate. And thank you to everyone who has given to this fundraiser in solidarity. $25 provides magazines to educators. $100 provides free online workshops to educators. $500 supports climate justice and resource development. And $1,000 donation supports future operations to keep our work going. And every dollar really makes a difference. So thank you for considering supporting Cierra's birthday fundraiser. And I'll turn it back over to you, Cierra.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse. I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all that you've taught me over the years. And thank you so much for being willing to be in conversation with me. Just feels really special to be able to have this particular conversation with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm very, very grateful. And as we transition, so I really wanted this space to be interactive and an opportunity to be in conversation with one another. And so I wanted to share my heart for storytelling. That's what brings me to this work. And I believe that storytelling and telling our stories as a means of pushing back on dominant, harmful narratives is so powerful, but it also is a way that we can dream new futures on paper, give them a bit of permanence. And so in the chat, I'm going to drop a link to a letter from Barbara Ransby, and it's in these times. And Barbara Ransby's letter from the year 2071 is a piece of writing that I continue to go back to for myself to think about what could be possible without boundaries, without barriers, what could be possible if we continue to organize and be in solidarity with one another, what could be possible if we win this campaign to disrupt and dismantle the harmful legislation that's moving, that's trying to ban critical conversations about racism and oppression in school. So as we drop that link in the chat, it'll be a link to Barbara Ransby's letter. I want to share something quickly for our community writing prompt. So my invitation to you will be to read Barbara Ransby's letter from the year 2071. And then to write your own letter to the year 2071. What would you want the world to look like in 2071? What would you want to be true? What would you want the world to look like in 2071? And what would you want to be true? And so we'll take 15 minutes here for you to engage with Barbara Ransby's letter, and then creative space for you to either write your own letter, or if you would like to draw, create, animate, whatever feels best to you, however you best express yourself, the invitation would be for you to create that letter to the year 2071. And the link is in the chat for the letter. And we'll take 15 minutes here for you to just have creative space. And then we'll come back together and I'll give you the next part of the prompt. Hey, so no rush, but I wanted to share with you all a Padlet. So we'll drop it in the chat box. And for the Padlet, what you will do is I'd like to invite you to select one line from your letter and place it into the Padlet. And so how you would do that is you would open up the Padlet. There is a plus sign at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And when the box comes up to type your reflections, you can click on the three dots next to the camera icon. And from there, you can click draw, or you can type directly in the box. So here is our Padlet. And you would just come to this plus sign here and open it up, and you can write letter from the year 2071 and in the year 2071. And then you would just click publish and it would show up on our community Padlet. So my invitation is to select one line from your letter and go ahead and enter it into the Padlet. I love it. I see some answers flowing into the Padlet. Love it, love it, love it. So much to tell you in so little space. Wow, this is powerful. These are amazing. I'll offer some out loud. Sometimes we have to sacrifice some of our wants as individuals so that others can have what they need, says Joyce. Artists are recognized as the beating hearts of our social movements, and creativity is respected as one of the most important skills to nurture among aspiring peacemakers. So much to tell you in so little space. First, the USA collectively wrote a new social agreement, a new social contract, hashing out many shared values into an agreement we can live toward and find ourselves being and becoming who we are meant to be as we work to maintain our contract between business communities, governmental communities, health and healing communities, and social communities. I hope we have finally made continuous momentum forward and not in reverse as we have been moving in recent years. In fact, we've gotten a lot better at a lot of things: defiance, mutual aid, building the tools we need. Today was a great day spent nurturing my youngest child, learning and playing with him in the moment. Today was not an anomaly. These are so, so powerful. Please feel free to continue populating the Padlet with your letter from the year 2071. And what I will invite us to do together is we'll go into breakout rooms. And so you can meet with a few other folks. Maybe you share a bit about your letter, say hello, greet one another. and then we'll come back as a full group. So let's take about 8 minutes in our breakout rooms, just sharing our letter from the year 2071, saying hello, greeting one another, spending some time together. We'll take about 8 minutes and then we'll come back as a collective. And I'll flow through so that I can get to meet as many of you as I can within the time frame. Okay, I'm going to be opening all breakout rooms. And as we get ready to close out our time together today, I wanted to offer my sincerest gratitude. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for engaging in this prompt. I actually use this prompt in many different ways. I've used it with students as a way to do some individual writing and reflecting on the future, using Barbara Ransby's work as a mentor text. I use it for political education in community-based spaces, for our organizing vision and figuring out how we get there. And then I also use it in professional development with teacher educators and teachers to think about what our own visions are for our work. I love that you all are dropping it in the chat. We'll make sure that you all have access to the Padlet after so that you can continue to think about not only our individual views for the year 2071, but what we have all been able to create together, some collective writing. And there's so much power in writing collectively. And so as we close, I'd love to share a couple of quick announcements. I see some great stuff flowing through the chat. Cheryl said, I shared with Chris that in addition to writing this letter, there's a website where you can write a future letter to yourself and it will email it to you at a future date. I love that. Nicole says, progress towards equity for all, also having empathy towards others. Eric said, my view of 2071 is the long-awaited next civil war is raging and Black folks, Latinx, and Indigenous people are winning, and I am on their side. Love it. Beautiful. Orienting our hearts to possibility, to hope, to justice, to love. And so a few closing announcements. Applications for study groups on teaching for Black lives are open. They are a free teacher-led professional learning community that can be tailored to the conditions in each school or district. Each participant receives a free copy of Teaching for Black Lives, a subscription to Rethinking Schools, and access to several invitation-only webinars and workshops. We'll drop the application in the chat box. On June 10th, Zen Education Project, a project of Rethinking Schools and Teaching for Change, is hosting its annual Teach Truth Day of Action. There are many ways to get involved, from organizing a gathering at a historic site to signing the Teach Truth Pledge and or posting photos to social media with the hashtag Teach Truth. We hope that you'll join us. And everyone attending tonight gets a discount code for a magazine subscription if you don't have one already. If you use the code JOY18 at checkout, you'll get an $18 subscription. And just so you know, we will also email you with a survey, links from today, and then also this coupon code. We'll drop that in the chat. And so in closing, I want to express my gratitude to Jesse for facilitating the conversation today. Thank you to Crystal and Shannon for ASL interpretation. Thank you to the Rethinking Schools team for all of the work behind the scenes to host tonight's event. Thank you to everyone who gave a solidarity donation. Every dollar helps us to keep our materials and resources low cost. And it's individuals like you that make up our movement, and we are so grateful. And if you'd like to donate to our fundraising efforts, it really helps to sustain the longevity of the work, so thank you. And thank you all to everyone who joined tonight. the teachers, the retired teachers, the teacher educators, the activists, the community members. Thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for all that you are. It means so much to be a part of this community, to have you all be a part of this community. And I'm so excited for all of the future things that we are dreaming up to bring us all together, to continue to strategize, to dream, and also to create the new futures, those that we all deserve. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Don't hesitate to reach out. We are so excited to continue the conversation. Thank you for joining us this evening.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.